right, welcome back to the channel. Let's play some more Legacy with some sweet, fair magic here. I'm, of course, talking about Izzet Cutter, which is a deck that was pretty exciting during spoiler season. People tried initial versions, then it kind of faded a little bit away, and now people have started to play them again, so I thought I wanted to revisit it. Core Steel Cutter is a pretty awesome tool for this deck. It's a token machine, kind of like, you know, your Young Pyromancer, Monastery Mentor, I guess, hybrid. It does hurt your deck, you know, composition when it comes to instants and sorceries. So Delver's Secrets is not... You really have to cut a lot of corners in order to fit that card, so I don't play that card. Also, it is kind of playing a little bit better against Orcish Bowmasters in that regard. In order to make sure we trigger our cutter on the same turn, we're playing up to 6 baubles. I'm playing a few more cantrips to keep the train rolling so we can double spell and get our monks. And then I've replaced some Delvers with a few Tamios to have, you know, 6 1-drops. I'm also diversifying my removal here in order to accommodate this deck's weakness of, you know, Nethergoyf, Baragoyf. We are playing the classic disruption here, Days Force, and single Borrower for catch-all, Murktide for finishing. And we're an 18-land deck with a basic land, 8 fetches, and a shock land on top of the 4 volcanic islands. Of course, the full place of Wasteland, because we want our opponent to play on our terms with, you know, fewer mana sources over the course of the game. If they have more mana sources, it's more likely we'll lose to stuff like, I don't know, Baragoyf and other expensive, annoying cards. Sideboard-wise, one of the big draws to being red is having access to Pyroblast and Price of Progress. I especially like Price of Progress into the Rise of Lands, and I like Pyroblast into people's love for playing, you know, Ponder Tameo decks and add in some Nadus and some Show and Tell, and all of a sudden you have an amazing card here. Cage is the best graveyard hate in my opinion. It is kind of a 1-mana leyline against Oops, and it has some crossover usage against Zenith, of course amazing against Reanimator. Force Negation to make sure we get to play the game against combo. A Braid is my Chalice removal of choice that also has some crossover, like killing a Bowmaster, killing a Chandler, killing a Tameo in, you know, pseudo mirrors. And then a split of Hydro and Consign to cover the rest of the format, that being, you know, Mystic Forge, that being some red prison decks, that being Painter, stuff like that. So this deck is pretty well rounded, but I don't want to see Orcish Bowmasters if I have any power over that. Let's see what we can do in some League games. All right, we're on the draw here with Izzet Cutter. This is a fun one on the draw. Double Bauble. So in order to... The thing is, we're missing land. These are delayed triggers. These are not Street Wraiths, right? So we can't keep this. That is just how the cookie crumbles. Wow, this hand is atrociously bad. I don't play a Surveil land. I guess I keep this hand and I hope my opponent's either an all-in deck or Wasteland buys a lot of time. And of course, that I don't draw land from the top of my deck. Yeah, I don't give myself very good odds here. I need a brainstorm to fix this. Okay, or my opponent's fetching a Hedge Maze, so that's probably a good, sorry, a bad sign for me, because decks playing Hedge Maze are hard for this deck. So let's see here. Beanstalk, I would guess, but I mean, I'm in big trouble here. Loam is very acceptable. That does cancel my plan when it comes to Wastelanding. Force of Will is not a good draw here. So yeah, as I said, Brainstorm is my way to fix this. If I don't see a Brainstorm within a couple of turns, I can't see myself beating any competitive Legacy deck. So now my opponent... I could have played a fetch there, actually. Maybe I should have done that. Here's Uro. Yeah, Uro is very hard to beat. So... Am I supposed to keep my opponent guessing that I could be a sneak attack deck? Or am I supposed to play this out? Okay, I think I'm going to concede here, which is quite unfortunate. So I'm playing against Bant Beans. Love my sideboard here to say something positive. So maybe the daisies are not good. Beanstalk is very annoying as a card. I guess I can cut Unholy Heat. Got one more bolt. So I leave a couple of bolts for Tameo specifically. Then I put in these cards. Brazen Borrower is not amazing, but could be, you know, a serviceable card. Let's try and submit this. Yeah, that's certainly not what I wanted to kick off this video, getting, you know, mulliganing into nothing and then finding a tough situation against the control deck. Let's see if we can do a little bit better here. Okay, I mean, these wastelands are very hit or miss against my opponent's setup. I will fight over the cutter. No bobble to get things going. But I think that's fine. My plan is to make these wastelands good. I guess I fetch Steam Vents end of turn. It's kind of a little bit inconsequential since this matchup is not about life total very often. But I think it's just slightly optimal. Now I have a choice since I drew Volcanic. Should I play Cutter with Wasteland so that I can potentially double Wasteland next turn? I think that's a better play. So I'm letting my opponent know about the first Wasteland, but I have the opportunity to double Wasteland my opponent next turn. So here's, funnily enough, maybe the reason why my opponent sideboarded like I did, because I had the early concession. So they are guessing on Sneak and Show, and I just could lock them 2 lands and, you know, conceded. This is kind of cool. Oh, my opponent's going after my mana. Okay, that's fair. Let's see what this is. It's obviously not a carpet, so thankfully it's a veil. All right, so it looks like playing out the Wasteland hurt me here. But my opponent's a multicolor deck, so Wasteland will hopefully be good later. Now if I brick and don't draw any play, I'll actually have a tough decision to make with my land drop. Okay, that is not a play. But I don't think I can play the bauble. I think I need to play like this, slow roll the bauble. This is not an ideal play pattern. Okay, so I like how I played here. When it is wasting a waste, my hand obviously doesn't care about that at all. That's why I'm holding the Volcanic Island. Opponent decides to keep those cards. Let's see if I can do it. I can do it with the worst possible, but I still think it's worth it. So let's see what my opponent's keeping on top of the deck. A plow. Yeah, this is certainly not optimal. Because now I'm exposing another bolt. Those are the 2 worst cards in my deck by far. My opponent with the basic planes and another ponder. So my opponent's certainly doing a good job not caring about Wasteland. So I can only trigger my cutter if I draw another bauble, which is bad odds. Let me say that. I should probably not even play out that Wasteland. Let's pass the turn. Okay. Basically everything that could go wrong did go wrong this match. That's what happens sometimes. My opponent does not play a land here, but they kept the cards on ponder, so maybe it's some logic of slow rolling their green source, something along those lines. Land is a bad draw, but land enables me to draw something like cantrip. Oh, wow. That got killed end of turn. Yeah, I don't think I can win the game now. Brainstorm. Yeah, my opponent's toying with me here. I'm not sure. So what agency did I have here? I could have mulliganed to 5. I could have not kept Cutter, Force to Will, blue card, triple Wasteland. Yeah, this is just what happens sometimes. Here's a Tameo that will die very likely, but I don't think waiting gives me better odds, so let's play that. So the best case scenario is I get forced here. Okay, I get forced here, so I have a chance because my opponent's Brainstorm locked. Okay, we live to fight another day. I was about to say, note that Cutter is actually let's call it a solid draw here. Not an amazing draw, but a solid draw. Because I can go Cutter, and I'm fetching because I don't want to get caught with the resolved Cutter. Wow. Okay. So my opponent has forced 3 times, and they're still in great shape. That's quite cool. Even though my opponent probably boarded for sneak based on negation and all the forces, they're doing pretty good here. My decision to play the first waste so that I could double waste on the following turn didn't exactly pay off this time. My opponent had the luxury to sit on basics. Here's Price of Progress, which is a 20 card. So what do I care about? Burning my opponent or hurting their ability to play Magic? Feel like I should prevent them from playing Magic. Also, that one confirms my opponent is a Leyline Binding deck. Here's Disruptor Flute. Sure. So they boarded for sneak attack. That's pretty cool. So now will they play around 3rd Wasteland, or will they say, like, I don't even know what they're supposed to name here. I mean, they could name Wasteland. Wasteland would be crushing. But I've already Wastelanded twice, so it's a hard play to find, I think. They have to name something that's not in their deck. Murktide doesn't make sense. I can just delve harder. I mean, in theory, I could go Channeler. I've already cast 2 Cutters. Okay, they will go Channeler. That's kind of cool. So, feel like Wastelanding is the way to play this game. What a terrible draw. Okay, so now I hope to stall the game, draw some threats before this is over. Power Blast is a good one. Still haven't connected with my Force. I have to remember Chandler is a 4-drop. Here's Cutter. So I guess I just go Cutter Bolt, which is kind of funny. Cutter Bolt. So I'm etching a little bit closer here with my Price of Progress. Let's see if there's another Plow. There's not. So I guess my opponent's hand is something like maybe double Leyline Binding, maybe up the Beanstalk. Green cards left over there. There's Ponder. So this game was super weird. Let's see. There's a Brainstorm. So we go for that. Brainstorm. And we win the game against all odds here. That was a very weird game. I can't believe my terrible draw beat their draw, but I guess it's the power of they beat Wasteland early on, but mid-game Wastelands were awesome. Pretty lucky. Also, they probably sideboarded poorly for the matchup. All right, we really got away with one there. This is like Uro, Carpet, Beanstalk, ton of wide removal. This is probably one of my least favorite matchups to play because they have all the tools in the world to contain my aggression. And when they contain my aggression, a lot of my cards lose a lot of strength. So That's why I really like the prices here to give myself a fighting chance to win a long game. That's a good tool to enable winning long games. Still like the 2 bolts. They were just quite bad to draw both of them, and I had to point them at my opponent, right? I couldn't wait because of how the cutter works. All right. Game 3. It looks like I can hopefully disrupt the radar a little bit with Channeler and then go cutter bobble turn 2. My opponent starts where they left off after realizing what deck I was anyway. With the basics. Pyroblast is a solid draw, but only for later. Let's go Steam Vents, Channeler. Hang on to the bobble because of cutter. Now the dream is that this Channeler will eat a, let's say, ending, let's say, Blue Blast type of deal. So now, funnily enough, I have the same decision. So maybe this time it's time to adjust to how my opponent is playing. And go fetch. Go cutter. I expect this to get countered, though. Another Pyroblast. I don't think I can say no to another Pyroblast, even though putting an instant in the yard is pretty darn strong. Maybe I should do that. Because if this gets countered, which I expect it to, that's Artifact, land, instant, and then hopefully my bobble can get me to Delirium. So I'm going to mill this over for clock purposes. My opponent's very patient if they... Oh. Okay, so now getting plowed. And then that resolves. Okay. So great play by the opponent here where, let's say I want to daze that plow, then I don't get the card value. So great play by my opponent. Let's look at a random card in their hand. 4. Let's get in there for 2. I get a delayed draw on my opponent's upkeep. And since they don't have black mana, there's nothing to be scared of when it comes to Bowmaster. So my opponent probably has to kill that cutter. 1, 2, 3. They can do that. So this is why... Okay, so they found the blast. They could have countered it on the stack, maybe. So now I have a Prowess Monk left, which is just pretty strong in a deck that's so good at churning cards. So let's play like this. Bobble. Look at my opponent's top card. It's a Wasteland, so this will inform my play a little bit. So now let's attack for 2 and then Wasteland my opponent off of Pyroblast before going to my second main. Take 2 damage. Wasteland before going to my second main. Murktide Region, leaving an artifact. My opponent already used a plow. I've now wastelanded them off red, and what a nice draw here with Force of Will. So I'm putting my opponent in a tough spot here. If I get to untap here, I really like my chances. Stock up. I don't think I can allow that to happen. Let's counter that, because that card could find like 2 action spells, so it's better to just take your medicine and kill that card. Triple Pyro. I think I can only attack for 5 here. Let's see, does attacking for 6 make any sense? If I attack for 6, my opponent's... Let's see if I then get wasted. In some world, it could matter to fire off the pump spell Pyroblast here. I'm trying to think if... How that hurt me. Oh, it hurts me because if I tap that mana, my opponent can wasteland the untapped one and then do something. Okay, so I can't do it for that reason. Which is a bit annoying, yeah. So I'm even milled over a Pyroblast this game. I'm very happy I did that. Otherwise, I would be in big trouble. Or at least in more trouble. So I expect my Murktide to die now, which is very unfortunate. Looks like that's not the case. Super weird. Let's see. I'm gonna play this out. I'm gonna attack for 5. But what is my opponent's hand? Let's see. If they fetch a Grixis land, they could binding. They don't have binding. Let's see. So getting them to 4, it's fine to get them to 4 because the fetch will take them to 3. So the bolt is going to be live. So I'm not going to do any shenanigans with my pyros here. This game is very weird. I wonder what's in my opponent's hand. Can it be anything else but... So we know about the 4th Eolingus. Can it be anything else but lands? Maybe like Force? Poorly timed Force Will? I don't feel like I'm supposed to be so close to winning this game. And even if they kill this guy, I can double Pump Spell with Pyroblast. It's funny that I'm calling it Pump Spells, but you know what I mean. Casting stuff. So now I expect my opponent to kill the Merc with the Pyroblast. Exactly. Okay, I see. So my opponent is... So when I wasted this Volcanic Island, I stranded Pyroblast. So that play was amazing because I did it on combat and then deployed the Murktide. So maybe this is why I win the game. Let's see if that's true. So that is dead. Yeah, I mean, now I'm going for it, which is... Let's see. Good old Pump Spell is going to get there. So... do that. Do that. And let's see if the monk can get there. That's pretty funny. Okay, so some cool things happened there. Just leaving behind that monk was game-winning. Me wastelanding on combat was game-winning. Putting the Pyroblast into the graveyard was awesome. And then just these Pyroblasts not being red elemental blasts made it so that the 1 in 100 game where you used them as lethal pump spells came to fruition. That's pretty cool. I'm happy I have that one on camera. Let's get some more great games in. All right, round 2 here with Izzet Cutter. Easy keep here, turn 1 Channeler. Let's see if these Wastelands are good, if this Force is good, or Bolt is good. In theory, my mana is very susceptible to Wasteland, but the good thing is we're not going to get Wastelanded that often. The opponent has no idea of knowing, basically, that Wasteland is good against me, and I'm developing a card here, so they're even less likely to go for it, I would imagine. But I've seen stranger things. Let's see. Let's see. I'm just putting a stop to my own upkeep. Let's say my opponent goes random creature, then I can upkeep, kill it, and get selection over my draw step. That's a pretty good trick here. Okay, so it looks like my Wastelands are going to be good. Very bad draw. I feel like I should get this going. I want to find that in the next blue card. So that's why I'm going to keep this Ponder. Okay, not bad, not bad. So what do I want to pitch for Force of Will? Maybe that's not the question I should ask. It's more, if I'm dazing, what do I want to put into the graveyard? So the answer to that question could be creature. So do I expect to daze next turn? That's kind of the thing, right? What's the worst that can happen? I guess it's I draw the Murktide. So this is fine. Stack like this. Then Wasteland my opponent. Maybe I put these cards in the wrong order. Yeah. Do I want that Murktide? That's the thing. I guess now I draw the Murktide unless I cast... If I cast Bolt, I get to Delirium. Maybe that's how I'm supposed to play. So I hold my opponent, mill the Merc, draw the Ponder. So now I have Daze and Force Pitch up. Feel like that's the way to play. So now I have to decide whether I want to develop Wasteland to play around and accept, fetched Surveil. And I think that's exactly what I want to do. It looks like if this deck is sporting Triome and Misty, I don't think they're in the market to search for basics. So I think this is a very good play. I'm now forcing my opponent to go, when they fetch, they have to use their mana. So hopefully this is motivating my opponent to play into Daze. Okay, it's motivating my opponent to play around Wasteland, which is totally fine. This could be a good card to Daze. I'm actually gonna go for it, because I don't think they have removal already. So I'm not sure I should let my opponent have that. Access. This is kind of a tempo game we have going on here. How I see this play out is like my opponent fetches a white source. I fight over the Channeler, get in enough hits, and I win with Bolt later. Oh, okay. So I'm already surprised. It's double Island, but the good thing is Island can't deal with Channeler. So I guess let's start by attacking. When I don't have a fetch available, I like casting Preordain more than Ponder, because of the situations where you have like one good card and two bad ones. So that is obviously a bad one. Let's see if we can find like a super solid card here. Second Chandler, I think, is amazing. I don't think there's any reason to find Hobble. Yeah, pass. So this is pretty good. Now I can choose to fight over a plow. I can choose to not fight over a plow. But I guess Teferi is the card I'll be fighting over. Stock up. Okay. So same theory as last time. I can't let this happen, because the cards my opponent is going to find are going to be better. Let's put this heat into the graveyard. So now Cutter. Is that better than Wastelanding? How scared am I about Supreme Verdict? If I play Cutter and Chandler, I'm attacking for 5. Then I can no longer lose to Spud removal. But I will lose to Terminus, Supreme Verdict. Yeah, this is very tough. I'm gonna go for the Chandler plus Wasteland situation, because this is lethal. My opponent has not shown an ability to cast a removal spell yet, so they could be, stuck with a bad situation. Okay. Opponent didn't have a chance here. I buried them with Timely Wastelands, Timely Daze, Timely Force, and Pressure. So let's just take note of what we saw before moving to sideboarding. This land tells me I'm up against Blue-White, Splash, Pyroblast, and Prismatic Ending. But why would this land not be a Tarn or Flooded Strand? Okay, so the good thing about this is I can kind of sideboard similarly to what I just did, but I don't think I want the prices, actually. The prices are probably quite bad. So I can cut the Unholy Heats. I can keep 2 Bolt. And then what did I do last time? Probably got rid of Daze, which I think is very reasonable. Let's see, what did I like Hydro. I don't necessarily like it, but it could be reasonable against, then again, Triple Pyro. So it's super situational. Opponent showed stock up, so I know Daze is playable, so maybe we just play it like this. We don't know if our opponent's a Wizards deck where we need more bolts, or control deck where we need the setup we currently have. Sometimes you have to go off imperfect information. This hand looks fine. I can play a Chandler. I can protect it a little bit. And if my opponent goes turn 1 Tamiyo, I just kill it right away. Okay, so opponent is also green. That does explain the Misty. And that also explains the opponent not doing a whole lot last game. Okay, so that makes my price of progress good. Let's play Chandler. Fighting over it with Daze for obvious reasons. Daze doesn't look to be very good this game unless my opponent's on turn 2 Beanstalk. Carpet. That card is awesome. If I fight over the carpet, it's because I believe I can pinch my opponent's mana this game. If I let the carpet resolve, it's because I believe I can deal with anything that comes out of the carpet. Which is more likely? So with this card in play, I consider Daze a dead card. But that's fine, I can pitch it to Force of Will. Then over a longer game, play some Murky Boys. Yeah, it's hard. I'm gonna let this resolve and hope I can, you know, draw some Pyroblast and stuff like that. There's like two ways to win a game like that, is fighting the mana base or fighting the spells, because at that point Carpet is like a mana source, right? It's like a Vial out of a mono white deck. You can, if you just kill all the creatures, you know, the Vial is a quote unquote dead card. So of course that deck has a ton of, you know, ETB value and stuff like that. But you know what I'm saying here. If we can end up in a end game where my opponent is quote unquote flooded and I have Pyroblast and Force of Will their stuff. Nice draw, by the way. Then, you know, that's a way to beat Carpet. So my opponent did not cast Plow. They could have done it. Well, it's basically to say they could respect Daze. They could not have it. Any guess is good there. So my main fear is that they cast enough non-blue cards to make my plan not viable. But let's see. I also feel like once I start triggering my Chandler, things will be looking up. Pretty cool little sequence here. I develop a land, but it's not an island, so my opponent only gets the 1 mana burst. Green is scary. Beanstalk? Yeah, so we have to fight over Beanstalk. So at this point, do I believe in Daze? Yes, I believe in Daze a tiny bit in this scenario. I'm willing to pitch a Murktide. I am very happy to draw Brainstorm next turn, yes. So if this ends up being a counter war, I don't get as much value from my Chandler, but I think that's totally fine. Second land, nothing. That's interesting. So my opponent lets... I just think if they had a removal spell, they would have cast it, because getting all of this selection from Chandler is pretty darn powerful. Let's get rid of that card, see if we can find the next type. Okay, this is probably where Daze gets a little bit bad, so let's get rid of those. Let's go Steam Vents, fetch. The reason to do this is just to hold up Pyroblast at all times. Then I'm gonna ponder into Delirium. And my opponent's Carpet has successfully reached the infinite mana stage. That card is not relevant. Let's see if we can find some good ones. It looked like we found some good ones, so I can go draw into the Pyro. Does that even make sense? Yes, let's draw into the Pyro. Try and attack for 3. I don't have any responses to white removal. In this spot, I'm hoping my opponent is casting blue cards. I'm hoping I draw Cutter. Another Chandler would be awesome. I expect them to surveil here. Hopefully for them, set up a good turn. Okay. So is this my opponent respecting Price of Progress? I'm actually very impressed. Yeah, okay. My opponent's respecting Price of Progress. That's very cool. So I'm going to let this resolve because a card like Uro would absolutely crush me. This is well played by the opponent, casting a Brainstorm at that point, kind of baiting me into firing off a Pyroblast. worth noting is that Wasteland would kind of crush me. Wasteland, move to the next main phase, all of that jazz. 4 cards in hand, infinite mana. Stock Up is not a card I can allow. Counter target spell if it's blue. Opponent's on 2 cards left. Unused mana, passing. I'm up on cards. I'm playing against infinite mana. Are we doing it? I think my next card is Brainstorm. So I'm just going to slam Murky Boy. Murk, exile, 4 spells, and a land, leaving 2 types in the yard with instant in hand already. Should be fairly trivial to rebuild. Delirium. Also worth noting that, oh, it didn't die end of turn, so it's not Plow. Okay, they set up Terminus. That's annoying. Or maybe it just got, no, they set up Terminus. That's cool. So my opponent plowed despite having a Terminus. Okay, that's good to know about their, let's say, temperament when it comes to protecting life total. So let's see. My opponent's making a lot of mana here. Back to basics. I will counter. No, yes. No. Let me think here. What's better? I think it's better to let it resolve because Veil of Summer cares about countering. Okay. So they fetched like this because of their own back to basics. That's very interesting. Back to basics out of a Beanstalk deck. So I can't beat a counterspell here, but I am beating Veil by playing like this. Okay, we live to fight another day. This is probably where I make sure I don't Brainstorm lock myself. Also, let's see how desperate I should be. Carpet does nothing, so I'm actually okay passing here. Getting 1 card deeper than brainstorming next turn. This also gives me the chance to spike Corey Steel Cutter, and it's less of a fail rate. So pretty nice. I could check my opponent's top deck, and it was a bad card. And I draw exactly Cutter. So, okay. Turns out thinking about your plays improves your win rate. Also, well played by the opponent here. If they decide to... Okay, they decide to jam. Oh, they don't. Cool. So I was about to compliment for them for slow rolling that card because it's inconsequential. But they play Brainstorm. So my opponent's last card could be Hydroblast, but I mean, what are we gonna do? I like playing this card out a lot. If it's not Hydroblast, I like my spot. It's not Hydroblast, so now we go Channeler, Monk, attack. It could be Endurance. I'll say that, but I don't think I'm allowed to play that around Endurance here. It's not Endurance. And now my opponent needs a very good card because something like Uro would crush me. Something like Stock Up would be insane. I hope this is just a plow. And not, you know, a sweeper. Sure, buddy. You have a carpet. This doesn't look good for me. Leyline Binding. Probably killing the cutter. So it leaves those guys behind. I guess this is where I start upkeeping. Okay, they have more stuff. Oh, wow. So the last card was Binding, but they played it slow. And then they just drew Stock Up. Yeah, that's what you want to see. That's amazing. So now I kind of have to finish this game, I feel like. Oh, the opponent even found a removal here. Okay. Well, I guess it's time to hopefully get lucky here. Chandler is a very good draw. So if I go Channeler, Brainstorm, I have to tempo out my opponent here because I'm for sure not winning in other ways. Let's see. My opponent has 1 mana, so... Oh, wow. Is this... Yeah, this must be good enough. So I go attack for 2... Force a will, like, removal stuff. I could have stacked them in the opposite, but I don't think... If my opponent plays well with removal, like passes a turn, I don't think I can allow myself to draw that Flooded Strand. Also note that I don't have Delirium for my Chandler next turn, no matter what happens, which is a bit of a problem. So I would be attacking for 3, that's 7, bolt down to 4. Yeah, this is certainly gonna be close. I'm just if my opponent found a good card off the stock up, I'm losing this game. So I'm gonna do this, and now the question becomes, yeah, I have to draw the bolt, that's the problem. Because underneath it is a land that I don't want to draw, so I might as well do it like this. A ticket, my opponent has a blank in hand. I'm gonna bolt here to hopefully have a good draw step next turn. I don't think my opponent would pass me the turn if they have interaction. So my opponent's at 4. Unfortunately, can take another hit if I brick. Declining carpet, playing a land. They probably have another land. Okay. Ponder is... Oh, I don't like this. Okay, they didn't have anything. Cool. Ponder. Not a ponder. So my opponent gets 1 more draw. A lot of cards stabilize here. And I only have 1 lightning bolt left in my deck, I believe, to finish off my opponent if they manage to deal with these guys. Uro is just game over. Fetching to 1 is... I don't know about that. So now if they find 1 plow or ending or binding, they're dead. And they brick. I feel pretty lucky winning these, but I had good plans. This is actually a pretty good showcase of how to beat Carpet of Flowers when you're playing a Daze deck. You fight over the other stuff, leave them with infinite mana, and win with, let's say, pressure and virtual card advantage. So hopefully you guys got a little bit of inspiration there. Speaking of inspiration, let's play 1 more match before we wrap up the video. Okay, 3rd match of Izzet Cutter. What are we looking at here? On the draw, no force. We need the wasteland and the heat to be somewhat live. Okay, this is the bottom of the barrel keep, I'll say that. It's always good. I always encourage people to play a lot to figure out what's a, sure keep, what's a marginal keep, what's a marginal mulligan, where does the, let's say, the border lie. I think that's pretty interesting to think about. I actually feel like I should go Chandler Bauble, hopefully find a blue card, deal with what is coming, and then I can use Heat and Wasteland with a clock in play. So play Chandler. I'm probably playing against Cradle Control, which is an annoying deck. So that card is bad. Let's see what the opponent has coming. Dryad Arbor. That's an atrocious draw for my opponent. So if I can draw a blue card here, I think I have a solid chance. I don't. That card is probably quite bad. Here's Gaia's Cradle, which will be the target for my Wasteland in this spot. Yes. My opponent now has 3 mana. This looks like a Zenith for 1. So what is that getting in this spot? Sylvan Safekeeper. Wow, that is good. Okay, so the opponent had it all here, which is awesome to see. Safekeeper, my plan was to upkeep, kill an ignoble. If my opponent sacks a land, it's the same thing, right? Then I wasteland the remaining land, but now I'm just getting destroyed. The opponent has all the mana in the world. So I should probably upkeep, heat the Safekeeper. Try and find a blue card. Wasteland the Cradle. Move on from there. Rowdy boy. Not a bad one. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So if I kill that off, my opponent has 1, 2, 3 mana. Then it's just better to wasteland, right? We'll leave it on top though. So if I attack here, I offer the trade. I think my opponent will take the 1 damage any day of the week here. And then I can wasteland the Cradle. My opponent knew about that though. My opponent with solid reps here, giving the ignoble Shroud until end of turn. So now my opponent has to speculate that I completed the force. They don't seem to care about that. It's pretty cool that deck can play Thoughtseize. That's pretty cool. Oh, we knew about that one as well. Okay. And we do it. We drew a terrible card. Now offering the trade for Dryad Arbor, I think, is still reasonable. If they lose that, they only have 2 mana and any creature will kind of stabilize. So let's try pushing the damage. My opponent has to worry a little bit here. They don't seem to care. That's fair enough. So I lose my creature here. Unfortunately, can't follow up with anything. I felt like it was a good bluff attack that would get through vast majority of the time. But not this time. Now my opponent is attacking for 3. It doesn't take much for me to get back into this game, but I do have some super stinkers. No Surveil. I'm just going to take my draw. Let's see. Can the draw step help us here? Brainstorm would be insane. Beardane, also good. So let's fetch first to not disrupt the order. Murky Boy, awesome. Tameo. Solid, but less awesome. Do I have time for that while getting attack for 3 every turn? I don't think I have time for that, which is quite sad. So let's play Channeler, land, pass the turn. My opponent is not going to Dryad Arbor. They might need, you know, I think they're happy playing or making Wasteland a dead draw at this point. So I guess that is totally fair. Getting in for 3. I'm currently losing the race, but I am a Lightning Bolt deck. I'm a Murktide Regent deck. I'm a, you know, I can draw another Channeler. I think I have to take my chances here that I can win a creature race. Hopefully no play here. That was too much to Okay, that is not, you know, the most powerful card in the world, but it's certainly good here. And now my opponent can get rid of... Yeah, they can kind of mess me up a little bit here. I need a great card here. Maybe my opponent has to respect this situation proactively because of Murktide Regent. This is going to be an this is going to be a 7/7 next turn, so I don't think I can beat this with a Safekeeper in play. I feel like I should just go to sideboarding here because I don't have the tools to beat that card. It's raising me quite easily. So this is a matchup where I like the cages, but maybe only 2. The Abrades are playable. I feel like Daze is terrible, and maybe it's just Brazen that's terrible. So let's see. Do I need 3 cages against that deck? It stops Zenith, it stops Natural Order, but they might trim on Order because I'm a counterspell deck, so... Interesting times. Maybe this is just a fine sideboard plan. I'll try this out. Cradle Control. It's been a while since I've played against that deck. I think it was right around Eternal Weekend last year. Did some testing with Andrea Mengucci, his formerly favorite Legacy deck. These matchups are always tough because no deck can really allow, like, you can't really put sweepers in your deck. So you kind of have to rely on a little bit of spot removal, some flyers, stuff like that. All right, let's see if we can do better this game. Okay, this is solid. Difference between play and draw is certainly something I can feel. Looks like I want to dig for my second land over trying to be lucky. So let's play Chandler, Bauble, get rid of Bauble. Guess I'm a Force of Will deck. Let's have a look over here. And then I have a stop on my upkeep in case I need to Unholy Heat, which it looks like... Well, I guess that Preordain is better to fire off and then trust... Let's trust the Preordain. Force Will is not bad. If I can find a land here, I like my spot. That is a land. Yeah, I think I need to cast my spells this game. These cards are not casting my spells. What I could do is wasteland that Bayou. Keep looking if I force something. Am I willing to accept wastelanding here? Or do I want to dig one deeper? It's a very tough spot, actually. I'm not sure what's correct. Also, if I don't force a will now, then I guess I'll look on upkeep. It's hard to mana screw that deck when they have infinite mana dorks. Let's see. Here's my favorite card. Yeah, I love Thoughtseize. That makes it very hard to play against that deck. So they can break up Force Blue card here if they want to. That will free up a lot of my plans. They take the Ponder. So I feel like I should upkeep this on Holy Heat. Try and look for land. Kind of the same formula here. Don't want that card, even though it is a blue card. I draw another blue card. So I guess we take that. Land or blue card was quite awesome. Also note that if my opponent had a Snuff Out, which they could have, they would have cast it a while ago. So my opponent knows about Force of Will. They know I didn't hit a land. So they're certainly expecting to get forced here. So the question is if I can catch something juicy like Endurance, or I have to counter something less juicy. That is certainly something less juicy, but I am gonna force that card, even though it's very annoying that I have to do so. I like the second land a lot. Okay, so my opponent stopped playing there, which is very good for me. So I guess I should put pressure with second channeler. I should attack first, because in case my opponent has Endurance Pitch, I want them to take the 3 damage first. But I guess they know about Channeler, so now they're trying to remember if I could potentially have Murktide Regent here, and they will arrive at the conclusion that I can't, and let me play. So Cutter not showing the best face here. So let's play Channeler, even though it's like worse mana usage, but it's hitting harder, and this is about getting my opponent dead, because I will lose if this game goes on. Big boy White of the Reliquary. And a Reclaimer. So very powerful cards. So maybe I just fetch this. No, I don't want to. I want to have a shuffle effect if I draw Ponder or Brainstorm. So now you gonna Endurance? My opponent set up the perfect situation here for Endurance Pitch, because they can force me to attack, then eat my graveyard and double eat my creatures. So the reason for them to do it now is they don't want me to draw days. So this could also just be a good bluff, right? Let's send these guys in. Okay, no Endurance Pitch. Does it even make sense to play this card? Yes, it does. Because I get the triggers here. So that card is bad. That card is bad. I'm just digging for Bolt here. So now my opponent has access to Bajuka Bog, and that means I will suicide my Chandlers this combat step. My opponent can freely attack with a 5/5 here. Maybe even get in there with the Reclaimer. Yeah. So they get it for 7. How much damage should they have next turn? They have 10. So I can't fetch. They can activate. So I'm dead next turn unless I draw Bolt now. So let's see. Is thinning 1 land better than having a shuffle effect? Or let's say Brainstorm into another cantrip? Oh. I feel like the cantrip thing is better, because then I get to see a million cards. Let's just try and draw here and see what happens. Okay, so I don't think I can win now, because cast your second spell. But +1/+1 trample and haste, so these guys will just die, and then I will get attacked for lethal in the other direction. So I think this is the end of the road for the home team, unless my opponent has Bajuka Bog in hand. Alrighty, with the GG's well played here. Looks like I am beaten. Wait a minute. Oh, right. My opponent's gonna not. I was. Yeah, they could have eaten both creatures, I feel like. And now they have exactly lethal. Yes. Good games, well played. That was a cool set of matches. We got to beat some control decks, and we got to lose to a green creature deck in the end that was just a little bit too much. I feel like if we hit our second land on time, we get to tempo out our opponent here. So sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. That's magic, right? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed playing this deck again. I dodged the Black Days pseudo mirror, so take that as you want. I think if you dodge those, this deck is very, very good. So yeah, as always, thanks so much for watching. I'm very happy that you're willing to, and yeah, I hope to see you back soon for more sweet legacy action. Bye, guys.